We saw yesterday a complete and total cognitive collapse from the current president, Donald Trump, stating with confidence that former President Joe Biden has stage 9 cancer, something that does not exist, and Trump devolving as he was given increasing amounts of rope with which to hang himself, devolving into conspiracy theories, the suggestions that there has been some kind of cover up here. This is the president of the United States. I will allow you to see how this went south more and more and more. And you will notice the people standing behind Trump motionless, as if they are thinking to themselves, maybe if I don't move, I'll blend into the wall and they won't notice that I'm here. This is like nothing I have seen before.
Respond to President Biden being diagnosed with cancer. Are you going to call your predecessor?
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time.
To get to stage 9, that's a long time. Now, I'll tell you what this is about. The Gleason score for Biden's tumor is 9. That's a measure of the aggressiveness of the cancer cells. Now, of course, Trump is confusing stage 9 cancer with a Gleason 9 tumor. And you might say, well, it's at 9, it's an innocent mistake. But most people sort of generally in the world understand that when we talk about cancer and stages, we talk about 1, 2, 3, and 4. Trump with stage 9 is, of course, indicative of something we already knew. He doesn't have the ability to retain or synthesize information. He remembers the number 9, and at no point is there a checking mechanism that goes, wait a second, I might remember something about 9. It can't be stage 9 because there's no such thing. I know that. I know that because I have friends and I have family and I exist in the world, and I know there's no such thing as stage 9 cancer. That mental process is not happening. The correct synapses are not firing for Trump. And then he devolves directly, apropos of nothing, into bragging about his own cognitive tests. What?
I just had my physical. You saw that. You saw the results of that particular test. I think that test is standard to pretty much anybody getting a physical, good physical. Wow. We had the doctors at the White House and over at Walter Reed, which is a fantastic hospital. I do it. I did a very complete physical, including cognitive tests. I'm proud to announce I aced it. Got them all. I got them all right. You proud of me? Yes. Your husband would be proud of me for getting them all right. It's a little risk. If I didn't get them all right, these people would be after me. It would be not a good situation. But I think, frankly, anybody running for president should take a cognitive test.
Remember, the question is, will you be calling Joe Biden after learning of his cancer diagnosis? Trump goes, I'm shocked we didn't hear about stage 9 before. And then he starts bragging about a dementia test.
You say it's unconstitutional, but I would say in that particular case, having a cognitive test wouldn't be so bad. But when you take tests, medical, as a male, that test is very standard. I don't know if it's given to everybody, but it's given.
Now, Trump doesn't mention it because, of course, his brain is mush. I think he's saying getting a PSA test, it's a blood test, prostate-specific antigen, that it's standard. But of course, what's standard is once you turn, in some places, 70 or 75, it's not done anymore. Now, should it be done? That's a discussion that can be had. There are some urologists floating around online who said, it's not standard, but it should be done. The reason not to, you might say, why wouldn't you do it? If the risk of prostate cancer goes up the older you get, why wouldn't you do it? And my understanding, speaking to a urologist, is you stop the PSA because since prostate cancer is typically considered slow growing, and if you've gotten to age 70 or 75 without it, it would typically, these are probabilistic outcomes, it would typically mean that if you get it, it would be the slow growing rather than the aggressive kind. You can have false positives of mildly elevated PSA just as a result of age, that if you kept testing in 70, 75, 80-year-olds, it would send you down a garden path of testing that's not necessary. This is just what is said, right? Now, we could have a conversation. Should you keep testing PSA or not? Trump can't even, because his brain is just such mush, he can't even string together what he really means here.
Just about And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9.
And again, there's no such thing as stage 9 cancer.
I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it's...
Now Trump is off into conspiracy world. The question, remember, a minute and a half ago was, will you be reaching out to Joe Biden over the cancer diagnosis? Trump is saying now that the auto pen is part of some way in which the 2020 election was rigged against him. Wow.
It was like that maybe was the president who ever operated the auto pen. But when they say that that was not good, they also, you have to look and you have to say that the test was not so good either. In other words, there are things going on that the public wasn't informed. And I think somebody's going to have to speak to his doctor, if it's the same, or even if it's two separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability, why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it's turned out that's not so. It's very dangerous. Look, this is no longer politically correct. This is dangerous for our country. Look at the mess we're in. You're talking about all these questions on Ukraine and Russia that would have never happened. As an example, if I were president, would have never happened. The other thing...
All right, so now he goes into his standard, none of this would have ever happened if I were president. It's a big week, I know, for the Biden cover-up here, but Donald Trump is more incoherent and more wrong than Biden ever was here. The only difference is Trump's energy is high when he's incoherent. And of course, Trump has no ability to correctly process and store information. And that is completely evident here, completely and totally evident here. By the way, one other little clip from this, the guy who constantly brags about how great he is cognitively, he can't open a box and someone has to help him during the same event. Look at this.
So, you want to help us out? You're the one that made it.
He hands the box to someone and this other guy just opens the box. So Trump's struggling with basic stuff, but listen, Trump believes we should have heard about the stage 9 cancer, which doesn't exist, a long time ago. Many people in the audience know I speak multiple languages. I first learned Spanish when I was born in Argentina. Then I learned English. I learned some Hebrew in Hebrew school. I learned French in junior and high school. I am no stranger to the language learning process. And one of the most useful tools I've ever used is the app called Babbel. The way our sponsor Babbel teaches you languages truly works, and it works fast. Instead of a bunch of silly quizzes and games like a lot of the other apps, Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable. They're rooted in real life situations and conversations. Babbel's bite-sized 10-minute lessons are just perfect for me. I can do it on the go, do it during a lunch break. It really sticks fast. Babbel was able to help me feel ready for my recent trip to France. I'm using Babbel to brush up on Italian and German just for fun. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is like a full semester of language at college. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pacman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.